I wonder if part of the problem is Sean Payton guilty of looking to the past too often when it comes to drafting current Broncos? Is he looking too much for traits in guys that he coached successfully in New Orleans, and he's looking for the next so-and-so when it comes to some of these Bronco picks? For example, Pat Bryant, the wide receiver, taken from Illinois, who they took in the third round, and immediately you start hearing draft experts come out and say, "Oh, they overdrafted him. He should have been a sixth-round pick." Well, here was Sean Payton defending or why they picked Pat Bryant.
Look, early on, they come in, they compete in the rotation. We try to find comps, and there were so many things about his game that reminded me of Mike Thomas. And with respect to Mike, who became, holy cow, you don't ever want to put pressure on a rookie like that. We're just talking about traits, but really explosive off the line of scrimmage, very competitive, very tough. I really think, the body of work and all the additional film study, but his size and his hands are outstanding. His competes, I don't know how many, critical. He was just that player that excelled at crunch time. He had, I think, a walk-off, a couple of these big plays. Obviously, he's physical, but the player comp for me, it reminded me, forget the jersey number, just of a lot of traits that Mike had, especially at the line of scrimmage.
All right, you guys, Mark, do you have a problem with Sean making picks for the Broncos based on guys he coached in New Orleans?
Absolutely not. Like, we always want comps on guys, right? When I say, hey, man, like RJ Harvey reminds me of Bucky Irvin. Everybody goes, ooh, good, that's great, that's awesome. Now all of a sudden, because some draft guru, the same kind of draft gurus that had Shador going in the first round, say, hey, this guy was a sixth rounder. Like, I appreciate traits. I appreciate knowing what you're looking for. And, you texted me yesterday and asked me to look at Pat Bryant. And, I would trust Stokley's evaluation more than I would trust my own. But let me just tell you some things, man. You want to talk about competing at the point of the catch? Like, this dude has got elite level, like, competition skills, 50-50 ball skills, coming away, turning 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls. Like, he has got elite level skills that way. He is big, guy not afraid to go over the middle. But the biggest thing for me, and Sean talked of explosiveness off the ball, but his competition at the point of the catch is supreme. And so, listen, I will tell you that Michael Thomas couldn't outrun anybody. Like, that dude was in wide receiver parlance, Stoke. That dude was slow. But you know what I know? He caught the ball. He caught the ball in tough situations over the middle of the football field, and he made yards after contact. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, I don't mind Sean comparing them. That's what Sean knows, right? And so when you're looking for certain guys, and you're probably thinking about guys that you coach, and that's who you compare them to when you're watching film and you're studying and evaluating these guys. Like, okay, yeah, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Darren Sproles or Michael Thomas or Drew Brees, that's fine. So no big deal.
Even if it means you're picking guys who, the draft analysts out there will say are reaches for where you took them.
Well, with Pat Bryant, we'll see. That's the one I'm more concerned with than the R.J. Harvey. Maybe one round too early on R.J. Harvey, maybe a little bit early in front of some other guys but whatever. I don't know. That can be a concern, though, is when you look at it, is Sean trying too hard to be the smartest guy in the room? I don't think so. I think he's done a great job. I think he's found a lot of these guys, and they're going to go through their process and do it their way and not worry about what these other people think of these guys. But you look at some of the guys that were drafted this year, and you say, Pat Bryant, was that a little bit too early? And is that the guy that we needed in that situation, too? That's what I ask myself, because I look at this team, and do we need another quote-unquote, I don't know. I think you'd look at Pat Bryant as more of a possession type of receiver. I don't know how much he's going to be able to play in the slot at that size. But, hey, I I don't mind Sean comparing the guys. I don't mind his approach because you know what? It's worked so far. 2 years, went to the playoffs last year. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
That's a W.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say that part of building or constructing your team is knowing exactly what you want at each position. And then having a plan and attacking that plan. Now, if you've got Brian is the best receiver left on the board that fits your criteria, even if he's not, even if he's rated a little bit lower, but you want a receiver at that draft pick position, and he's the guy that you want. I don't have any problem with an organization going, I identify a guy, I identify a skill set. Like we went after Franklin as an over-the-top guy. We've got Mims as an over-the-top guy. How's that worked out? You drafted speed and athleticism there. The book is not written. A couple chapters have been written, but the book's not written, so those guys could still be good. But, I don't have any issue with an organization saying, hey, man, this is the exact fit for what we want this guy to do, and we're going to put him in a position to be successful. How is that ever wrong?
Well, I don't disagree with either one of you. I guess I'm just reacting to what seems to be the reaction around here to the Broncos draft, which was basically meh. And then you go and you see all the corroboration, all the putting together all of the draft grades out there that people have given out, and pretty much the Broncos out of 32 rank basically like 22nd, 23rd, 24th when it comes to the best draft classes. I'm just saying that's what the word is out there, and that the biggest problem for the Broncos was that they reached on guys. But to your point, why wouldn't you? You're talking about the draft, and I think one of the big beefs I have with draft nicks is that they tend to look at the draft as an absolute. Well, this was a good pick. This was a bad pick. This guy went where he should have gone. This was value. This wasn't value. And I would think just common sense would dictate that, let's see, if we're talking about a guy who in 15 years in New Orleans averaged 10 wins per season, he had a lot of good players. And if you can take a look at all your successful teams and successful players, and you can look for identifiable traits in current players that remind you, I would think that would take a lot of the work, or a lot of the guesswork out of evaluating these guys, Stoke. And, why would you be against that if you're a fan?
I think the other thing here, when you look at these prospects, that the draft quote-unquote experts, the mocksters, they don't know. They don't know the situation that player's going to. That makes a big difference. What role are you going to play in a specific situation? If you go to a bad organization and they put you in a bad situation, guess what? You're less likely to succeed. These guys don't know that. So Pat Bryant could be a perfect fit for the Denver Broncos. And then on top of it, what kind of coaches do you have surrounding you to put you in that position to be successful? How are you coached up? That is a huge, huge deal in your development. And if you're successful or not, these mocksters and draft experts, they don't know that.